It's good to come your way as we begin this exciting and wonderful journey in core mathematics. My name is Nana Yawedu, and you can call me Sir Nana. Remember to share this video, like this video, comment when you find anything interesting, or you have any questions that you want to ask, and click on the notification bell and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can be abreast with all videos that I'll put out there. In this lesson, we are going to consider angles and the Pythagorean Theorem. And we are considering reference for angles. We want to look at things that we can see around us, that we can relate to it when we are looking at angles. So let's consider motivation for learning this topic. So basically, when we look at this picture, we see a foundation and we see angles all around this foundation or this construction. So we can see a 90-degree angle here, which has been created at the end here. All the ends here as well provides us with some kind of angle. So this is just to tell you that when you look at the things around you, things that are man-made, things that are natural, once it's in 2D or 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, we can find angles all around them. You can also see an angle at A. So angles are things that we see all around us. Now let's consider the construction going on here. We can see that the contractors have very good and in-depth knowledge of angles. Why do I say so? Because when we look at the beams that they've created here, they use the concept of angles to protect the bridge at all the parts of the angles here. So we can see an angle here, we can see an angle here, we can see an angle at this side, an angle created here, an angle here, we can see an angle here. There are angles all over the bridge that helps to protect the bridge. There is an angle here. There are angles all over. So even in road construction and bridge construction, angles are very important. Now let's consider this road. You cannot have a road junction without having an angle. So we see a 90-degree angle here. We see a 90-degree angle here. We see angles created by the building here, angles at the pavement here. So angles are seen all over. So from today, when you are moving around, check the things you see around you and see if you can create some angles for yourself. Now let's consider a definition for angle. So basically, when we talk about angle, we are looking at rays of lines. So for instance, over here, we see a ray of line from A to B, right? And we see a ray of line as well from B to C, right? So AB constitutes a ray of line, and BC as well is a line. Where they meet at B. So where they meet gives us an angle. So there's an angle created at B, right? So we can say this angle can be 90 degrees, as you can see here. Or we see an angle from X to Y. So an angle is created from X to Y. And then we have an angle created from Y to Z, right? So the angle created is between X and Y and Z. So the angle is the angle at Y. Let's say this angle can be 100 degrees. And we can also have an angle created on the outside of lines. So you have angle from a line from PQ and a line from Q to R. The angle is created at Q, but this is on the outside. So to be able to know the angle on the outside, if we know the angle on the inside, probably as 90 degrees, we can have the angle on the outside because we know angle at a point is 360 degrees. So 360 degrees minus 90 degrees will give us 270 degrees. So the angle on the outside is 270 degrees. So let's look at a definition for angle. So we can say that an angle is formed from the intersection of lines, right? Which type of lines? Rays of lines. So intersections of rays of lines. So remember that an angle is formed from the intersection, or when two lines join together. Where they join is where an angle will be formed. Now let's consider our reference for angles. So basically, when we talk about reference for angles, we are considering the things that we see around us that we can relate with when we are looking at angles. So first, when we open our palm as wide as possible, we can see that our thumb will make an angle of 90 degrees with our smallest finger. So we see an angle of 90 degrees. Our next finger can make an angle of 60 degrees. So the angle here. And our next one can make an angle of 45 degrees. And then the next one will make an angle of 30 degrees. And then the small thumb, since it has no opening, will be an angle of 0 degrees. Or let's consider opening a door. We can open a door as wide as getting a 75-degree mark. You could even go back to the 90 degree. We can also open it as wide as having a 60 degree. We can open it as wide as having 45 degrees. Or we can close it further and have 30 degrees. Or even close it further and have 15 degrees. Or when we shut the door completely, when the door comes to the line here, then it means that it's at 0 degrees. So these are things that we can relate to it when we are talking about angles, and that is what we call the reference for angles. So for instance, when you are climbing a stairs, you could see that you'll be climbing 90 degrees angles from time to time. So in this lesson, we've basically considered reference for angles, and we've looked at the definition for angles. We've mentioned that for reference for angles, we are looking at things around us that we can relate to it when we are talking about angles. In our next lesson, we'll be considering how we can measure and how we can bisect angles. Remember to share this video, like the video, and comment at the comment section. See you in the next lesson.